Hello everyone, welcome back to Sunmi Learns. If you're new here, my name is Sunmi and today I'm going to finally be doing my May reading wrap-up. So typically these videos come out like at the end of May or very early in the beginning of June, but here I am almost in the middle of June finally filming this video. But May was by far, I think, my favorite reading month ever. I think the lowest I rated a book was like 4 stars, so I think this deserves to be filmed because I want to like scream about the books that I read. Also, I think I found one of like my favorite authors of all time in this month, so like this is huge. So the first book that I read this month is a book called All That Really Matters. And if you look on my Goodreads, which I can link down below, I think Goodreads says that I took like 6 months to read this book. But the reason why it says that is because I like started this book, I read a few pages, but I really wasn't, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. It also seemed very shallow because like the first few pages, it was talking about like a YouTuber, which is funny considering I'm doing this on YouTube, but like, I don't know, it was like a makeup influencer, and I just thought it to be one of those like kind of cheesy YA books. I was like, so I dropped it. But then I came back to the book and I just fell so much in love with the book. So the book follows, like I said, a YouTuber. She's a makeup influencer. Her name is Molly. Her manager is also her boyfriend, but you can tell from the beginning of the novel, I don't think this is a spoiler, that like she isn't really satisfied per se in this relationship, but she just like keeps going in the relationship. Anyways, that's a side tangent, but like her manager, they are trying to get her to 1 million subscribers on YouTube, and then he believes that a way to help her get there is if she seems more, I think, like personable, more human. So he wants her to do like some sort of charity or volunteering work as a project to help her get more subscribers. So she finds out about an organization that like it's like a foster care sort of for like youth. She finds out about it from her brother, who is a pastor. His name is Miles, and then she decides to interview to be a volunteer at this organization. To cut the long story short, because I also don't want to give anything away, she does begin working at this organization, and then the book just follows her journey through this organization, like how she learns about, you know, depth and like things that really do matter, like the title says, but also her relationship with someone in this organization, because I don't want to give the whole book completely away. But all I have to say is that the book was amazing. We also follow her. She develops a relationship with one of the students or one of the like youth in this organization, and that was just so beautiful. There were too many like quotes that I got away from this book, so many cute moments, like I cannot even explain it. I just think it's a book that everyone should read. Of course, I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Beautiful book. I know I'm going to start reading it in maybe like 2 weeks or so. Excellent book, one of my favorites for the year. And then the second book that I read is a book by the same author called All That It Takes. So All That It Takes is actually based on the life of 2 characters in the first book, All That Really Matters. And if you can believe, I even loved this book, All That It Takes, more than I loved All That Really Matters. I don't know why, I'm even getting tears in my eyes thinking about this book. I loved it so much, and I loved All That Really Matters. So for me to love All That It Takes even more. Anyways, All That It Takes follows Molly from the first book, her twin brother. His name is Miles. It follows his story and also the story of Molly's best friend, who is also her assistant. Her name is, oh shoot, I forgot her name. I had to check. Her name is Val. So it follows the story of Val and Miles. But I think, okay, so I should say, so the synopsis, or like the story of this is, Val in the original book, All That Really Matters, has lived in Alaska. Like she lived in Alaska and worked remotely for Molly. But then in this book, All That It Takes, Molly has sort of convinced Val to come to, I think Molly lives in LA or somewhere. I forget where they are. By the way, Molly has convinced Val to like move to where Molly is and like work with her in person. So Val moves, and Val has a son, such a cute boy. Anyways, she moves with her son to where Molly is, which is also where Miles is. And then we follow the story of like Val has a disability, which I love. I cannot count on my fingers the number of books that focus on the disability of characters, but I really love that that's included in the story. and it wasn't just like brushed off, it was kind of a big part of the story. Val also deals with what I at least think is like social anxiety, which is also included in this book, and I also love that that is touched on so much in the book. So it's really cool just seeing her like learn to accept her disability, learn to be like okay with people learning about her disability, how she deals with like social anxiety and things like that. But also Val is like wanting to be a filmmaker, so we also follow her journey through that, things like that. And then we follow Miles's journey as well, and of course, as you can expect, this is a romance novel, so some romance. Also, yes, this book also follows something else I'm really passionate about, which is like teen pregnancies. It's just a book with so much depth, but it's also still a very like feel-good book. I think this is the first book of this year that I actually cried in. Like I was literally like, I'm tearing up thinking about this book right now. I cannot explain it. It's such a beautiful book. Go read it. That's all I have to say. Go read the book. Okay. Also, I should say, I actually replied to this author on Instagram. Like I messaged her and I was like, I absolutely adore your books. They're the best thing ever. And she replied to me and she was so sweet. We had like a mini conversation. I'll pop up on the screen one of the snippets of our conversation. So the author is amazing as well. So all the more, go read her books. Then the third book that I read this month is Heartbones by Colleen Hoover. So I think if you're on Book Talk at all, even in the slightest form, you've definitely heard of Colleen Hoover. You've probably heard of Heartbones. Heartbones is like, I'd say it's popular, but not as popular as her other books like Verity, Ugly Love, Reminders of Him. But Heartbones is still relatively popular. I've been seeing the book around and I think the cover is absolutely stunning. So I've kind of wanted to read it, but I also know that Colleen Hoover books are like known for being extremely spicy, and I do not read spicy books. I don't want to. But then this Heartbones, people were like, it's kind of, I think even on Colleen Hoover's Instagram page, she like placed this as a YA book. So I was like, okay, maybe I'll give it a shot. And then I read this book. So the book follows a girl named Bea. Bea's mom passes away, which this isn't a spoiler. I think it's like in the first like few pages of the book. It might even be in the summary of the book. But yeah, so Bea's mom passes away and then she moves to live with her dad in a summer house. And I think they live in Texas. I believe so, yeah. So she moved to live with her dad for the summer in Texas, and then it just follows kind of like her journey there. She meets someone and like they're developing relationship, her like grieving sort of. It also has some depth to it. This isn't just like a cheesy romance novel, which I like. The book did end up being, by my standards at least, like a spicy book. There were easily skippable scenes, but there were some scenes that like I feel like I didn't want to read. So just keep that in mind if you do decide to read the book. I feel like I would rate the book 4 stars. I think it was a like extremely engaging story. I was late to work a couple of times. Well, I actually read it in like one day, I think. So I was late to work that one day that I read it because I could not drop the book, and I was reading it during lunch. It was very, very engaging. But I would say there was like a plot twist at the end, and I just don't think the plot, like in the moment I was like, oh, whoa. But then honestly, as I thought about it, I was like, wait, but it wasn't that big a deal. I was shocked because like I didn't see the plot twist coming, but then what the actual plot twist was, it wasn't that big a deal. I was like, okay, like sure, I guess, like possible. It wasn't like awestruck, jaw-dropping, but it was an engaging read. It was a good book. I can see why people would like it. Yeah, I think it's a cool book. And then the fourth and final book that I read this month, I did read some non-fiction books, but we don't need to discuss those. But the fourth and final fiction novel that I read this month is Before I Called You Mine. In all disclosure, I actually haven't finished this book, but I'm so close to finishing it, and I like read the majority of it in the month of May, so I'm just going to count it. This is the third Nicole Deese book that I read. This one is like a separate story, but I'll be honest, this one, I think at first I thought I was going to give it a 5-star, but I feel like I'm leaning more like 4.5. The book follows like a woman. I also have forgotten her name. I never remember the names of characters, but it follows a woman who like she's trying to adopt as a single woman internationally, and she kind of decided like just to make everything easier, she wants to remain single throughout this adoption process because she already signed up to do adoption as a single person. I think there might be other reasons to why she's remaining single, but At least that's a major one for her. But then she meets this like substitute teacher who comes in, and then sparks fly. She starts to question, should she really stick to this like single life that she has like subscribed to? There's also a lot more to it. There's also like family drama that she has to deal with. She like problems with her mom, problems with her sister, things like that. But overall, I'd say it's a good book. It's an enjoyable read. To me, at least, it's not compared to All That It Takes and All That Really Matters, but it's still an enjoyable read. I still do recommend it. And yeah, May was a pretty slow month, but those are the books that I read in the month of May. Thank you all for watching. I will soon be doing a books that I read in the month of June. But if you have a takeaway from this video, the takeaway should be, if you have not read All That It Takes and All That Really Matters, just go read it. Just make your heart happy by reading these books. Thank you, and I'll see you in my next video.